I mean, I like things to be seasoned to the point of, I always describe it as like you're walking up to the cliff and it's seasoned to the point where you're standing on the cliff and you're safe. You're not going to fall off. But it's like 1 micron more salt and you're like almost going to fall off, and that's not good. Like you want to be like comfortably standing on the cliff.
This is Taste. I'm your host, Matt Rodbard. It's been a really busy year for our two guests, Chris Hansell of Chrissy's Pizza and Brooks Headle of Superiority Burger. Brooks finally came on the show. I really enjoyed this conversation with two big thinkers and, dare I say, dreamers. As former musicians, each are rooted in the punk rock ethic and aesthetic, and we talk about how visual identity and dedication to craft dovetails with music and food in such a unique way. Chris shares the story of coming to pizza, from a simple apartment pop-up to running one of the buzziest openings in New York City this year. And Brooks reflects on 2 years of Superiority Burger on Avenue A and his continued obsession for finding the highest quality produce for his cooking in the East Village. What a fun talk. I hope you enjoy it. Chris Hansell and Brooks Headle, welcome to This Is Taste. So great to see you guys, IRL. What's up?
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, thanks for having us on.
We got the double. I love it. We haven't done a double in a while, but
You got us to Midtown.
I got you guys to Midtown. Chris, this is just like day off. You just opened Chrissy's a few weeks ago, so thank you for making the time.
Of course.
Brooks been goading you on the show to come on the show for like maybe 2 years. So
Yeah.
we're here.
Excellent.
So I like to start and just find out where you're both are dining in New York when you're not working. Chris, I'll start with you.
So let's see. So the place that I frequent the most, honestly, besides sitting at the bar at Superiority Burger and eating, is Cozy Royale in Williamsburg. It's just like so consistent every time. It's got a great vibe. It's always bustling, but it's not like overly loud or whatever. And it's just like the coldest martini in town. I love eating their steak frites, and I need a cold martini on my free time.
Yeah.
two or three of them.
Post shift.
Yeah. That's where I've been going the most in the last year or so. And then there's also a place called Formosa that opened like 20 steps from my apartment in Bushwick. It's like a Taiwanese dumpling spot that it's been around for just about a year now, or maybe they just celebrated their year anniversary, but it's like, just go there. I could walk out of my house and go right in, have dumplings or have a beef noodle soup and just like relax by myself.
20 feet from your house.
Yes.
It's like
steps away.
0.1 miles. All right. Brooks, what about you? What do you when you have a moment to get away from the restaurant, where do you like to go?
It's pretty hard to pry me away from 119 Avenue A, but if I do go anywhere, it's usually bread and salt.
Yeah, I was going to say
Jersey City.
Up on the cliff overlooking Manhattan.
Yeah, I had like 3 other places listed, and the next one was bread and salt. Like if I can get out to see Rick or Brooks, especially, we just get to hang and.
Yeah. Rick's food is unlike anything else, you know.
I love Rick Easton. Yeah, he's been on the show. Great cookbook author too. Big fan of that book. Is Rick doing anything for the holidays? What do you know? Do you know what's the word on bread and salt these days?
I mean, there's always when Rick does his panettone, it's very special.
Yeah, so he's doing it maybe. Possibly.
Yeah. He always says stuff like he's going to turn bread and salt into Christmas Village.
That would be fun to go to. What a great guy. And did you learn from Rick when you were starting your focaccia journey?
Of course, yeah.
Yeah. How'd that collab work with him?
I mean, Rick developed a recipe for us, and then we kind of took it from there. And that was a while ago. That was 2017. So Rick and I have a really good barter system going where I make stuff for him, he makes stuff for us, and we've never once exchanged cash.
Yeah.
I even gave him our old ice cream machine. He made tons of bread for us during COVID. I've tried to do the barter system with other people, and it breaks down immediately. So the fact that this one's been going on since 2017 is pretty cool.
It's a special relationship. I mean, the ice cream machine must have got you some bread. couple loaves.
Definitely.
Yeah, those things are not cheap. Well, I wanted to have you both in to talk about two different topics. You know, we're going to talk about Chrissy's Pizza and the launch. We're going to talk about Superiority Burger. 2 full years you've operated about?
We're getting there. We're in the second year.
You're in the second year.
Year and a half-ish.
You're like in it. You're past that 1 year. So we're going to get into that. But I want to start with you, Chris. It's been a really fun journey to follow on Instagram. And when I posted my weekend slices, I mean, it lit up. Like,
Really?
I post stuff about food all the time. It's like my thing, many of our things. And people were like, how is it? What is it? How are they doing? What's the line? Now, that's great news. And I want to get a sense from you. How did you get this following? You know, you started with doing pies in your apartment over COVID, but like, there's like a lot of great pizza in the city, but you got this following. It's very cool.
I don't know. I don't have an answer for that. I literally made an account before COVID just to document. I started teaching myself how to make pizza because I have been obsessed with it my whole life because of my dad. My dad's no longer around. And my best memories with him were like going to pizzerias in Queens and Valley Stream when I was a kid. And my dad's like kind of crazy set of rules for different spots. Like he'd be like, this place you have to order the pie well done because they're very busy. And if you don't order it well done, it'll come undercooked because they're just trying to crank him out. Or like this place has the best square slice. This place has sesame seeds on the crust. We like this place. Like, so I got obsessive about food or pizza specifically at a young age because he just had this like crazy brain. Like he was a fine cook at the house, you know, making sausage and peppers or whatever. But like, he just had this, like when he was going out to eat, he wanted it to be perfect. So with our memories were like pizza. So after he passed away, I kept going to different pizzerias by myself or with friends or like on tour. Like I'd be in Mexico City and try to find a pizzeria to try that just anywhere I am. And so around 2019, I just got the itch to just like teach myself how to make it. And I made an account and I would just post my progress. And I never did anything. I never did any I don't know anything about marketing. I just posted pizza and you know, just like this pie sucked or whatever. Like
yeah.
But when COVID hit, I had a lot more time on my hands. So I was able to read. And I would make dough and it would rest for 3 days. And I'd make a pizza and it would suck. And I would like throw it in the garbage. And I would stew all night about it, like in my room. But since I didn't have to go to work the next day, I just like went online and tried to read about fermentation and you know, the dough process. And I found these forums literally called pizzamaking.com. They look like a GeoCities website from the 90s. And there's just so many old heads and like pizzeria owners, home cooks on there, just like sharing information. So I would just read. And I would try and fail. And then I would try and it would be kind of good. And I would try again and it would get a little bit better over, you know, a long time. But all I ever did was just post pictures of pizza, like on my kitchen table. And sure, like Brooks and I come from music and like album art and photos and the aesthetics are important to me. And I think that, and to Brooks as well. So yeah, sure. I would I think that like with a shitty iPhone, I could take a good photo of my pizza if I just like hold it a certain way or like have the light hit it in a certain way. So maybe the photos looked good, but like I literally just posted progress. I would literally just write regular.
You posted through it.
I would just type in all caps, like regular pie.
Yeah.
And people would start following and my friends were like, that looks really good. I'd feed them sometimes. And then it just kind of kept going.
Well, then you go pro. You start actually selling it out of your apartment. How do you make the decision? And
I didn't start immediately selling it. I was making it through 2020. And then, so after about a year and things started opening up in 2021, I was like, I'm not going to sell pizza out of my house without working in pizzerias. I like all my first jobs were restaurant jobs, but I hadn't cooked in a long time professionally. So I literally sent an email. The Scars was looking for people. I sent an email. I was like, listen, I don't have a resume. I haven't cooked in a long time professionally. Here are photos of pizzas I've made in my apartment oven.
Yeah.
And John, the manager at the time, hit me back and was just like, yeah, come in for a trail. And so I trailed at Scars two or three times. It was between me and some other guy that had like tons of pizzeria experience. So they hired him during this time.
Ooh, crushing. I mean, come on, a little bit crushing.
Crushing, for sure.
Yeah.
But I'm glad that I didn't end up working there because Scars was one of my favorites in the city. And I think that if I worked there, maybe my relationship with that pie would be different at this point, you know? But during that time, I became friendly with Andrew Bellucci, who's no longer with us, had a pizzeria in Queens. He had just opened it. I went there to eat pizza. He was on those forums that I spoke about earlier. And he would just I would ask him a question. He would give me as much information as possible. He never held anything back. He was so through my relationship with him, I told him that I applied at Scar's. He was friends with Scar. He kind of tried to put it in a good word for me. And then, I didn't get the job. And Andrew was kind enough to be like, come work at my shop.
Man, that's cool.
So that was my first pizzeria job at his first location in Astoria. I learned so much from that guy. Like my vodka sauce recipe is based on his, which is like one of our craziest selling specials when I run it. And so I worked there for a few months. And then I jumped to Lindustry that's where I spent the most time.
Yeah. You're used to lines then, working in industry.
That's where I learned
Williamsburg location?
Yes. That's where I learned really how to hustle. Because I was on their slice line, and then, they top every slice to order. So it's full on like a garde manger, so that's where I learned speed and I made pizza there. I never messed around at any of these places. I never messed with dough I didn't know their recipes. I was just learning how to work the oven and crank. And then I worked there for I can't remember how long it was, 8 months or something. And then I did a short stint at F&F because my friend Maddie is the manager there.
That's good. In my book, I've said it many times in the show. It's my number one slice.
It's a great slice.
My one. That's my pony. I love it. What do you learn at F&F?
Speed.
Yeah.
So I was mostly the oven guy at F&F.
Yeah.
I made pizza too, but they could fit. They have two really long, wide Pizza Master decks.
Yep.
And if you load the oven, the way they load the oven, you could do 10 at a time. So, and then 10 18-inch pies at a time in between two decks, and you have to rotate them in place like they're Neapolitan pies because you can't pull them out over another one in the front. And so on a Friday or Saturday night, 10 pies at a time. I burnt so many pizzas. When I first started there, I burnt so many pizzas and had to throw out so many. But, I remember going through a crazy service once and we cranked it out and did a good job. And my friend Maddie was just like, cool, man, just do that every time.
Keep doing it. That's amazing. And then the Sicilians there too are pretty good.
Very good.
That's my one.
But they would sell out. Those would sell out pretty quick.
Those are okay.
Yeah.
And Maddie used to work at Superiority.
Exactly.
Oh, no.
Yeah. There's all sorts of links.
Yeah. And so Brooks, let me ask you, how did you and Chris hook up? And I know you're not financially involved in this project. You're a buddy.
I'm just a super fan.
I love that. So how did you guys meet up? And what did you see in Chris's pies that kind of you're a chef and you've seen lots of great pies and bread development, and we'll talk about your focaccia, but what did you see in Chris?
Actually I heard from Maddie that I had to try Chris's pizza. So I sent Chris a DM and was like, hey, that was before you were selling it. It was just kind of around.
I think it might have been the first month I started selling.
Okay. And I got a pie and went downstairs, put it on top of your trash can, and ate a slice while it was hot. And it was I instantly, I was like, this is different. This is you could taste the obsession that got that slice that I ate on top of the trash can, And it's rare that I find I eat something and you can immediately feel the obsession,
Yeah. And Chris, he responded to you with something, you told me.
Yeah. He sent me a text or a DM that just said this is so special. What's your email address? And so I gave it to him, and I woke up the next day at I think that the timestamp on his email was 7 a.m. or 7:30 a.m. And it was just an 8-paragraph long email and each paragraph was about how much he loved the dough, the sauce, the cheese, and how special it was. And it was me and Brooks had a lot of mutual friends, and I'd go to Old SB, or we'd see each other at a show if I ever caught him at one, and we'd maybe nod our heads at each other, or look at each other. We should know each other, but we never really properly met. And so that coming from Brooks, who he's gonna cringe at me saying this, but who I respect so much as a chef,
I'm always cringing.
So do I. I respect.
It was huge for me. It was the first time I had like recognition like that outside of like just my friends. So it was huge for me, and I was just like, okay, like, can I curse on here?
Of course.
So I was just like, fuck, like I got to keep doing this. Like, and so if I feel like, I'm sure I would have kept going, obviously, but like that little stamp of approval from someone like Brooks was just like incredible to me, and like was just like, okay, like I need to just like keep going and keep working on this and making it better and better. And so that was like a big deal to me.
Brooks, from the 8 paragraphs, what was the one element that stuck out the most? Is it his sauce? Because I got questions about that because I was into that. But what was the one thing that stuck out?
Well, I ate one slice hot, and then I was like, fuck, I got to get home and just finish this, So then I like called a car to go back to the East Village, and I'm just like tapping on the thing like, come on, man, let's go. So I only ate one slice hot, and the rest was, I ate one once it was at room temperature. But I think the first thing that hit me, and I know I put it in that email, was it felt like the cheese had been like poured on top of it.
Yeah.
It was so perfectly cooked, and I couldn't understand it because I knew that this was being baked in a home oven in Amana.
Mm-hmm. That was the brand, Amana.
Yeah.
And I couldn't understand how this cheese could be in the oven for 10 minutes.
Like a low moisture mozzarella.
Mm-hmm.
and come out like that. It wasn't browned out at all. It was just like, it was this perfect, like orange, like it was just perfect. And that was the first one I had. So
yeah. I mean, and you've continued just to be friends, and you just eat the pies. Is that your relationship? Or are you helping out with the opening of Chrissy's? You must be offering some advice when he's opening.
I mean, we talk a lot, and I can offer as much advice as I have for certain things that, but
the last line in the email that he sent me was like, and by the way, don't ever take any business advice from me.
That's true.
Well, I think, Brooks, you operate your businesses with a huge heart and less capitalistic impulses, and I feel like you offer a special point of service and menu. I feel does that crater your business plan sometimes, just like your impulses to do certain things?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I oftentimes think that I could have had like the most expensive, fanciest vegetarian restaurant in the world or whatever.
Yeah.
But I chose to go the opposite direction,
Yeah. And you're probably happier that way, I would imagine.
Sure. Maybe.
I mean, life is long, maybe that.
Yeah, there's always, I can always change it up. So
there's some hotel that I'm sure would want you to open that in the world.
Hotel. I worked at a Ritz-Carlton for a while, so
yeah.
I learned early on to like steer clear of hotels.
I read your first book, cover to cover, maybe twice. It's terrific. You tell a lot of great stories in there about your past. Definitely pick that up.
During the build out of Chrissy's, I kept thinking back to when after that email, me and Brooks just became friends. We would hang. He asked me to come see the new space on 119 Avenue A. So, but it was gutted. It was completely gutted. But I went there and met him, and we drank a beer, and he just like walked me through the space, like so excitedly talking about like how it's going to look and how it's going to be. And I'm just looking at just like this fucking mess. And I'm like, how is he so excited about this? There's just like nothing in here, like whatever. And so during my build out, when I was like, how is this going to come together? I kept thinking back about like how excited he was about 119 Avenue A and how special I should be, thinking about the space.
Yeah.
Because, when something's gutted, you're trying to see it so hard. But the way he had this insane vision when it was just like literally just like no ceiling, everything covered in plastic wrap, just like sheetrock all over the floor. Like it's like, it helped me a lot during the build out because it was stressful time.
That's true mentorship. I mean, just he knew that you were going to see some things that you eventually would use.
I don't, maybe, or he was just excited about the restaurant, but like, at the time, and then we just kept hanging out. And so when, throughout my whole journey, like Brooks was always there. Like he gave me a place to make pizza when it got too popular in my apartment. I couldn't do it out of there anymore. Like I wouldn't have been able to get to where I am now without him. And so that's why we're doing this podcast.
Yeah,
what I'm saying?
Well, we'll get to. I have questions about your specific pie, but when you're ripping up the old diner on Avenue A, what are you finding in that diner? I mean, I lived at above Niagara for 3 years, and so I went there all the time. But such an iconic space. But
no, of course. I mean, Odessa was always a favorite, and I always loved the room.
Oh yes,
and as soon as I found out that it was on the market, found out on Craig, it was a Google alert because the owners put it up on Craigslist.
Wait. And you had Odessa in your Google alert.
Yeah. I'd actually been writing. I'd been writing the owners letters for a couple months. I'm not the first person that was doing this. There were many people doing this.
And just sliding under the door?
Yeah, giving them to the superintendent of the building, stuff like that. No idea if that helped getting the space or not, but I kind of consider myself like a custodian of 119 Avenue A, because I've kept it pretty much exactly the same. I mean, not the kitchens. The kitchens are brand new. But in terms of the public area, it's exactly the same. We refurbished or cleaned up the things that needed to be. Ceiling tiles, like the molding on the ceiling got repainted. The red ceiling in the back near the bar got repainted. But pretty much it's the same, including all of the upholstery and all the booths and the seats in the fountain are the same. And I'm going to keep doing that, keep not replacing things, but just making it the same. Obviously, it's different food. There's different artwork up. But whenever the time comes that Superiority Burger is done in that space, whether that's a year from now or 5 years from now or 10 years from now or 20 years from now, I'm an idealist to a fault. So my dream as an idealist would be that whoever takes over that space next also leaves it the same and puts up their art. And who knows, maybe it becomes a seafood restaurant, but still looks the same.
Yeah.
Or who knows, 15 years from now, 20 years from now, maybe someone's like, I want it to be Odessa again. And I've saved it for you,
Yeah.
You could totally do Odessa again. Now you just have a crazy kitchen to work with.
Great kitchen, yeah. I mean, would you buy the building?
I don't think I'm in any position to buy much of anything, let alone a building in East Village. So.
Well, that would be the pure custodial move if you own the building and you could just be the keeper of it. But it's a cool story that you have you preserved the space, but you've created an environment with homage to New York, and in each of the corners, there's little homages and little shrines to some of our. You have the Sitzema little section there. If you can look at it, I love that. Down the hatch. Is there a down the hatch up there? I can't remember.
Yeah. There's a page of Down the Hatch framed on the wall. So
I love that. And who are some of the other New York City icons that you are paying tribute to with the art and the artifacts in your space?
There's an amazing photo of Dojo on St. Mark's that should never have been discovered. It's from 1994, and it's my girlfriend, who is from Honolulu. She had been on vacation with her dad and came to New York, and she was cleaning out her mom's house in Oahu, and found this photo where we took it and blew it up next door at Luster. But it's a very, very detailed, sharp image of the Dojo patio and a bunch of crazy knuckleheads sitting in the patio staring directly at the camera. And there's a woman outside with her kid, and she's got a Nobody Beats the Whiz bag. And
classic.
Mariko is completely blown out by the flash, so you can't even really see her. And it looks like she's holding a bunch of zines, but that's not really the case at all. They had gone to see a bunch of plays on Broadway, so she's holding playbills, but you can't see them, but you can really see the Dojo awning and logo and the people in there. And it's just this really amazing snapshot of that particular time in the early 90s. Because before I lived in New York, when I was in bands and I would come to play shows or whatever, would always go to Dojo and get
carrot ginger dressing.
Yeah,
I mean, they invented
and the soy, and you get the soy burger.
The soy burger, exactly, and those two dishes are legend in East Village lore and in New York lore.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think I ever got anything else other than that there, and I've always liked having a restaurant where you go and you only ever get one thing and you don't even try anything else.
100% agree.
That's kind of cool.
I was the same way.
I know there's a couple of people. We have tons and tons and tons of regulars at SB, like almost to the point where it's ridiculous. People that come 3-4 times a week, and there's a handful of people that come and only get one thing, and it's kind of cool. I love it.
Focaccia and collards, is that a staple?
Yeah, a lot of people will just come get that. So
yeah. Well, Chris, back to you. I want to hear about the pie because I'm really curious about the anatomy of your pie because it's really special. I agree with you, Brooks. It's got a lot of thought and detail and care and love into it. And I want to hear about the sauce because I think you're using 2 domestic tomatoes, and we're fucking going there. We're gonna like break this down. Let's.
The sauce is so good.
It's so good.
I've sat there and I've watched Chris make it, and I'll try to make it, and I can't.
All right. Well, this sets it up. I mean, and tell us what you want. I mean, obviously, I feel like you're an open source guy, but
yeah, I mean, I have to be because I learned from so many open source people. Yeah. Like, I'm not hiding it. Also, like my recycling's outside every like 3 days a week. You'd see the boxes of tomatoes I use. You can see the box of cheese. Like, you can see all that stuff. It's not. I don't think it's ever about like the. Of course, you have to use high quality products. I think that I consider these, to me, they're high quality products because they taste good the way that I prepare them. Something I'll say is that when Brooks first introduced me to Rick Easton, he was like, I want to bring Rick by your house to eat a pizza. And I was like, please don't fucking bring Rick to my house. He only uses stuff from Italy. He's going to hate everything that I make my pizza with. He's not going to like it. And Brooks was like, trust me, he's going to like it. And I was like, are you fucking sure? I was like, well, we have to go to Bread and Salt first. And I need to eat a bunch of his food before he comes over. And we did that. And then Rick came. He came upstairs. He saw me stretching, like pushing out dough on my kitchen table. And he was just like, are you just stretching on your kitchen table? And I was like, yeah. He's like, that's fucking awesome. And then just sat at the head of the table and just watched me. And I made
you nailed the Pittsburgh accent there, by the way. You nailed it. You got it.
I call it the Rick accent, but I was so scared about feeding him because I used domestic tomato. People are always just like San Marzano. I was like, and Brooks for a long time used like Gusto Rosso tomatoes and stuff like that. So it was like intimidating. I'm like using a California tomato that's not Bianco di Napoli, and I'm using a New Jersey tomato.
Tell me about that. Jersey, because I feel like we the Stanislavs we know about the Napoli products, but Jersey tomatoes and pizza hasn't crossed my wire that much, I'll say.
Well, I mean, have you eaten pizza in New Jersey?
I mean, my sister-in-law owns an amazing pizzeria. I'll shout it out. Franny's in Highlands, New Jersey. Tip of the Jersey Shore.
There's some of the best pizza I've ever eaten in my life is in New Jersey. Pizza Town, USA in Elmwood Park. It's a perfect pizza. But Jersey tomatoes are good. They're different than California tomatoes. But so this is coming from, I don't know, it's okay. I've been making pizza for like 5 years now, which is not that long of a time. But this is like from me mixing tomatoes I can only get at the grocery store when I didn't have access to purveyors and things like that. So like mixing pastine with the fake San Marzanos that come in
the San Marzano, the white can,
the white can with the tomato.
Yeah, those are
from
funny.
California. Like mixing those together, or taking like Cento and mixing it with something or whatever. So, and then like reading, like what do I want from these tomatoes? And I found this place on Long Island called Sandstone Market. They're like a purveyor, they're a vendor, but they have like a retail arm where you could buy like a case of Stanislav's tomatoes or Grande cheese. And so like that's when I was like, holy shit, I gotta get out there.
You gotta plug
this stuff.
Yeah.
So that's when I started mixing those big number 10 cans together. And it took me forever. I was messing around with like Tomato Magic. I was messing around with Valoroso. I was messing around with like I think I've tried every single Stanislav's product. And they're fucking good.
Yeah.
Like I don't like people are like, oh, it's just like the same bullshit that everybody uses. It's not but like it's also how you season them and it's also how you treat them. And for me, mixing them with a Jersey tomato, where a California tomato is super sweet, a Jersey tomato is more like robust or I don't know how to talk about food, but like
umami, I guess.
Yeah,
I don't know.
like it's a deeper, bolder, And so I think that when you mix the two together, and I'm not going to say the ratios that I use, but like I think that having that marriage, and so like the Jersey tomato I use is crushed, the California tomato I use is whole peeled. So that together, and then I don't mill them. I don't think it's necessary. A lot of people like to mill when you get the seeds. I just stick blend. But and then just like I don't know, restraint restraint and upset. Like, I don't know, like people put so much in their sauce, but like all good tomatoes really need is like a little bit of extra, there's salt in some of them already, but just like a little bit of salt.
And then of course extra virgin olive oil too.
Maybe but
a little bit. It doesn't really inform the sauce. Okay.
Barely any.
You're
but
keeping
it's in
it
there.
You're keeping it. Brooks, your cooking too is restrained in the same way. I feel like if you have your collard and focaccia dish, you're not trying to gussy it up with too much saucing. You're not seasoning it, in a way that shouts of like a certain. It's just like a really precise. You're tasting vegetable and you're having bread that is flavorful and developed. Do you have a similar point of view?
I mean, I like things to be seasoned to the point of, I always describe it as like you're walking up to the cliff and it's seasoned to the point where you're standing on the cliff and you're safe. You're not going to fall off like this, but it's like 1 micron more salt and you're like almost going to fall off. And that's not good. Like you want to be like comfortably standing on the cliff, like a, I don't know, like an influencer Instagram photo.
that's just, and not
it's
the
a
bad
terrible
story.
analogy.
But not the bad story where it's like the influencer dies and you hear that. On like
yeah. Because that's bad. Because
that's bad. Yeah.
Oversalted food is just the worst,
Yeah,
But
it is.
the thing about Chris's food, and I like to talk about it and think about it as food, not like just pizza.
Agree.
Is that, I mean, Chris is a seasoning savant, and that's a compliment. In fact, to one point where when Chris was still doing the pizza out of his apartment, Hannah and Aaron from Quarter Sheets in LA were coming to town and had told me they were coming to town. I was like, I will figure out a way that you can come eat Chris's pizza. You have to try it, And I think you made us a regular pie and then
I did one with
long hots and
like not fully caramelized, but just like super, like a little bit lighter, like super buttery onions
cool.
and a sesame seed crust.
Right, and I remember like we were eating it, just sitting there, like the three of us just sitting there, like what the fuck, and you're like in typical like self-deprecating mode. It was like, I don't know, I'm not a chef. And I remember Hannah looked at you and she's like sitting there and she goes, honey, you're a chef.
That's so great. I feel like Hannah came in the next day to record with us because I recall she's like, I was in some random guy's apartment eating pizza. And here he is. It's Chris sitting before us. And Chris, back to you. Let me ask you about the dough and setting up a dough program. You're doing like 150 pies a day.
Like 160.
160. Like going from this like at-home pizzeria, you obviously have the industry experience and you saw high volume industry, but how do you think about your dough program? And like, is it like, are there like, oh fuck moments? Like the dough isn't working. The dough is not, we don't have enough.
Not yet.
Okay, good.
Next
question.
No. So this is the first time I've ever let anybody else touch my dough. It's opening this shop, which is like, I think that like most chefs can like, oh, someone else is making my food. But there's this amazing guy named Luis who's from Chile and he's like a punk guy. So it was easy for us to get along. And he was actually a dough guy at Lindustry prior, but my dough is completely different than theirs. Like I don't know what Massimo does for his dough, and
that's good that you don't know.
It's good because I don't want any of that. I don't want my pizza to. That's what when I was talking about the pizzerias that I worked at, I was hesitant because I don't want anybody to think that like any of what I'm doing comes from that pizza. Like those pizzas are great and they're amazing, but everything that goes into my pizza is from me being a psychopath in my apartment during COVID.
Yeah.
That's basically it. Like like there's some influence from like classic spots, but Luis is incredible. And I had to show him multiple times because I do my so I taught myself how to make the dough. So I fold it differently. I mix it differently. Like there's the way that so he tried to seal my dough balls when we were cutting and rolling when I was training him, and he couldn't do it.
That shit is hard.
Because I was like,
that shit is really hard.
Because he was trying to do like the normal method, like this pinch and turn method, and you can't for some reason the way I mix, and I don't want to change it. You can't do it that way. And so it took him a while, but the dough is like better than ever. And I just can trust him. Like he's there I'm here talking to you and he's at the shop right now making Friday's dough.
So it's like over 50, 60 hours.
55. I think it's about 55 between like the way it sits out at room temp before, like during the mixing process and then before service. But 55. I used to do 72.
Yeah.
But it's not.
You can't really you have to have more fridge space.
Fridge space, and I have it. My place was a coffee shop prior, so it's very small. You saw it.
Oh, I saw it. Yeah, and
we have a basement, but anyway, yeah, it's a 55 or maybe a little bit more hour cold fermented dough. There are no pre-ferments. There is no sourdough. I'm not against them in general, but I am against them for my pizza. It's just a direct dough that's handled with care and fermented for a long time.
And again, the time is not it's just not just a number, it's flavor. Like we're talking about developing flavor. How do you think about that with your bread program?
It was tough for me to be like, okay, I can't go full 72 unless I do a Polish or a Biga or something like that. And I didn't want to do that. I don't like, for my pizza, I don't like the flavor profile. I like that. So like a huge influence for me is like a place like King Umberto and Elmont or whatever, like Giovanni, like his dad, like they're still using this classic dough, like this direct ass dough. I think they do like the pate fermenté method where they throw some old dough into the new mix, which is awesome. But then he's messing around with like Roman style and these Metro pizzas, like it's cool. That's a huge influence for me because I can go there still and eat that slice and remember the exact time I was there with my dad when I was a kid, but then also try his like sfincione and all these newer things he's messing around with.
It's about flavor development and how you think about.
I think about that dough, like, which is like, it's pretty, like I talked to him, he's pretty open about it. Like, their classic regular pie. He's like, yeah, we do like the old dough and the new mix. It's like this hydration, whatever. It's just, I think that all I learned was that time and care develops that flavor. So I like 55 hours, 60 hours. I think 72 is good too, but it's a little bit riding on the edge depending on like the temperature or whatever, like the possibility of overproofing. And I think that the way I mix it, which is, I don't know why I do it the way I do.
Yeah, but it
sits out for a certain amount of time before it goes in the fridge. It sits out for a certain amount of time after it comes out for service. And I think that the flavor is great. And I think that, and it's hard for me to say that because, as Brooks said, like I'm pretty self-deprecating about my food. Yeah. But it hits me where I'm like, my dad would love this, and so that's all. All I give a shit about.
There's that Jeffrey Steingarten essay about pizza in one of his books, where he talks about like specifically New York pizzerias as being these like prehistoric bakeries that are on every street corner, and that's such a cool way to think about it. Especially thinking about like this new Chrissy's. It's like, it's this prehistoric bakery that does one thing really well.
Yeah.
That's cool.
It's very cool. And thinking about pizzerias as bakeries is an amazing thought and something we try to further on the show. It really does come down to the bread development, the flavor development with your bread program. Let me ask you about finding the spot on Nassau in Greenpoint, picking Greenpoint, a place that has great pizza. Well, you can go to any neighborhood in New York and have great pizza, but, and like, the early word is that this is pizza you can't miss, and I visited last weekend, and lines are, I won't give it times, but they were like maybe like 50 people in line. What's that like to have a pizzeria just like blow up like that?
I thought it was going to be busy, but I didn't know it was going to be this busy.
I did.
Yep. Word is out.
It's been so Monday was our last day of service. We were closed on Tuesdays and Wednesdays for now. That marks a month we've been open, and the line has never stopped, and it's crazy. But for me, luckily, I'm buried kind of in the back by the oven, so I don't see it, and it forms not in front of my store going in front of my window. It's to the left of, so if I look out, I can see the first person in line, but I can't see how far down the block it goes, and so it's out of, if I saw it, I'd probably freak out and get nervous, but I'm just stuck there. I make every single thing. Yeah, that's another thing. I make every single pizza that comes out of the shop. It's me. There's nobody else that tops and launches them. It's me. I have a guy running the oven named Akbal who's incredible, who used to work at
Also, you worked at SB?
Yeah. I see the
my
path.
friend Driston is pushing them out a little bit for me so I can go faster when it comes time, but it's me making every single pizza. So I don't really have a second to think about the line. I just have to go. I'm grateful that people want to eat it that bad. Do I like that they're waiting for a long time? No, but people are talking about it, and so people are lining up.
How do you mitigate it though? Like, how do you, like, from service, you have somebody working the booth, and how do you make people not get super mad?
David, mercenary David. So David, who also used to work at Superiority Burger. He's the sweet giant man who controls the line. He's my expo guy. He controls the line.
Very nice guy.
He's the best. So he'll go out 2:00. We open at 2:00. He'll go out at like 1:59 or 2:00 and just make these announcements and tell people how it works and tell people, what to expect and how, if they want to stay, they have to get it on a tray. If they're getting it in a box, the box has to go with them. So
the boxes are great. The design, loving that.
I mean, it's just a classic. I didn't want branded boxes. It was just it's just a classic pizza box.
Classic box.
But if I didn't have David, who he cooks, but he was the door guy at International Bar for a little while.
Oh, no way.
So he's got the gift of gab, and he's got the gift of security.
Working line at International. Oh man, that's a great skill set to have.
Yeah.
Working
so
line there. Wow.
He's the guy. If I didn't have David, because we have Chelsea, who also kind of like runs the joint. She's the front of house person and runs the joint basically, but she's a little bit less social than David. So like it takes a lot of weight off of her. And I think that he likes to be able to be outside. And
Chris has this incredible crew of people. Like everyone's a character. It's amazing.
It reminds me of SB, of course. I mean, especially early days SB, when you could really get to meet everyone in the space. You foster.
It's a similar sized.
It sure is.
Pretty close.
It's like pretty, except you have a basement.
I have a basement, but it's funny when I saw the space, I was like, shit, this looks like old SB.
Yeah. Well, I want to ask each of you. I'll start with you, Brooks. You each have spent time playing in bands, and I think bands inform restaurants in unique ways. Of course, there's the soundtrack, and having like band signifiers and merch around, and having like a vibe. But really, let me ask you, Brooks, there's this mentality that touring musicians have. There's ingenuity, there's thinking on the fly. There's a lot of skills that you gain on tour. How does that relate to restaurants, and how have you been able to channel your previous careers in music to make these restaurants so special?
I mean, I don't really think that there's like any sort of direct connection. If you've been in a band and you run or work in a food operation, I mean, at this point, like, pretty much almost everyone has been in a band.
Yeah.
But for me, and this doesn't necessarily apply directly to someone that was in a band or in a touring band or in a touring band that made no money and slept on people's floors or whatever. Is just going back to what I was saying before, is the obsession. I think it was like one of my favorite John Waters quotes is like, I'm going to fuck this up, but without obsession, you have nothing, And when you are in a band, like you're working together and you have a singular focus, and typically all 4 or 5 or 6 or 2 or 1 person is completely obsessed with the project at hand, and because you have to be. So I tend to look for people that have that feeling or that vibe of obsession, even if they weren't necessarily like in a shitty punk band or whatever, but I can count off on my hand like a bunch of people that have worked at SB that have contributed massively to like the operation just based on their obsessive nature with food, So I think one of my other favorite quotes is Michael Lasconis, the old pastry chef from Le Bernardin, would always have this cuisine or death.
Oh, I love that guy. I love that mention, Michael. What about you, Chris? How does your band background, like, help you open Chrissy's?
I don't know how it helped me open Chrissy's necessarily. I mean, similarly to what Brooks. I mean, what Brooks said makes total sense. I also just think that I always like to say that, and I've said this to Brooks multiple times, is that like coming from punk or hardcore and stuff like that, like it just immediately gives you the upper hand in life, because
Yeah, it kind of does.
Because it's like, it's like doing everything yourself, putting out your own records, going on tour, booking them by yourself. It's like you have these organizational skills that like that you didn't learn in school. Well, I didn't go to college, so like I didn't learn any of these things in school. I learned them through playing music and trying to just, perform in front of people and have a good time. But also I think that because punk and hardcore is so special, there's these aesthetics in it that influence like how like you said, like how did your pizza get so popular? It's like I don't know, like I just posted I like to make something look cool, like I'll take a good photo of the pizza or whatever, but through album art and photos of old books like documenting like, the 80s hardcore scene and stuff like that, it's like you have like it's the coolest art in the world. It's like the best art. It's like
it is.
So it's like if you get to be into cool stuff your whole life, what I consider like the coolest shit, like I think that like having Chrissy's like the design aesthetic. My friend Sean did the Sean Joyce Southpaw signs, like did like the sign and did the windows and did the new logo and all these things, like because we can't. But he knew exactly what to do for me because he also grew up in going to.
I mean, you have the upper hand in aesthetics. I mean, you have confidence and you have point of view, which I think is two things.
Point of view is huge in restaurants and food. And if a place doesn't have a point of view, it feels weird.
It does feel.
Well, yeah, when it's farmed out to an agency or a fancy restaurant designer and it's meant to fit an audience, which you're thinking about audience first, but both of you are singular and you're not thinking about your diners in terms of the aesthetic. You're thinking about your own vision, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, 100%.
Brooks, I've wanted to have you back because I think I've been to Superiority, I think 3 or 4 times this year, and each visit is extremely memorable. And I think a lot of our listeners have been and left with an impression of innovation, especially on the pastry side. You're always with gelatos, ice creams, sorbets, and of course all the plated desserts are always changing in a way that's exciting. What's year 2? What's the theme like right now, like of your second year? Do you have like a general sense of how things are going?
We had a pretty creative and solid year starting in kind of the late spring, pretty much right when the market really started ramping up. For old SB, it was a lot of what can I say, like it was a tiny menu and then like specials constantly. I mean, that's not totally accurate. Some of the specials we did run every day too. And when we first opened up the new SB, it was such a massively different operation in terms of amount of staff and amount of covers and this and that. So I wasn't able to initially like have it be as insanely changing and crazy as possible. And that's just, because, the whole thing with you open up a restaurant and all of the reviews and all of the attention is immediate, like within seconds of opening, within a day of opening, that kind of thing. And you always get better, and it's just, it's the way it is. I'm not complaining about that. Yeah. But we've had a really good year and a lot of really awesome people filtering in and out of the kitchen. So moving into the winter now, getting into like potentially the third year, we have just an arsenal of specials that are non-seasonal, that I don't have to necessarily worry about specific things coming from the market because of they happen to be in season. At the same time, like I'm still deeply into like micro seasonality when the opportunity emerges, like, that perfect moment in early October where there's new crop apples and raspberries at the same time, and they kind of taste the same. And that's so cool. But if you don't go to the market for 2 weeks, you miss the whole thing. I love stuff like that. Or like, when the kiwi berries start, and why the fuck do kiwi berries grow upstate, but actual kiwis don't? Like, that's so weird. It's so cool. But being able to like grab things, and that's something that I really like to make sure that the staff at SB knows, is that like, we are going to the market as much as possible to like, because sometimes you miss a week, you miss something.
Yeah.
And that doesn't necessarily mean like we're only using market produce, because that would be impossible. But it's really important to me to like, know the farmers that you're dealing with and know what they have coming, know what is available, and like, that there's certain things, like I'm trying to think of a good example, but it's so many different things where, say like a nectarine is amazing one week, and then maybe it was only amazing that one week, and then it kind of like, it's still great and you can still get it and you can still do something beautiful with it. But that one week where you don't have to do anything to it, and it's such an incredible sensation, you know?
It's amazing. I think we had a great stone fruit season in New York this year.
For sure.
I
Yeah.
felt it was like last year was crummy. It was like really bad for whatever reason. But talk about farmers you like. I would love to know like who are the guys you're hitting up.
I mean, we get a ton of stuff from Campo Rosso.
Yeah.
There are Fridays at Union Square. Occasionally, it seems like the SB Instagram are just commercials for Campo Rosso.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah.
But yeah, I've had a deep kinship with them since the restaurant started, Chris and Jesse, because they do a lot of things that are kind of inefficient in order to get like the best possible thing. And, you know, for example, they're doing sprouting cauliflower and sprouting romanetto, and this like purple sprouting cauliflower that is so delicious and so crazy that like just a quick blanch in like gently salted water is just, it's unbelievable. And then if I make a sauce or something crunchy to go on it, it's almost like not that important compared to like the actual raw product, you know? And like, again, that's not to say that like I'm only using that kind of stuff, you know? Our collard green sandwich is, you know, we get boxes and boxes and boxes and boxes of collard greens that come off of a truck, you know, and those get pressure cooked into like silky awesomeness. But it's really special to be able to serve. And again, this goes back to obsession, like Chris and Jesse growing these things and getting the seeds from Japanese purveyors to do this thing and then having to sell them, you know, per pound for a price that a lot of people might like walk through the market and be like, oh my God, are you serious? But it's absolutely worth it, you know?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And you can go there on Fridays. They're at Union Square on Fridays.
Yeah. Fridays. Go
so
early.
check it out. Go early. Campo Rosso.
Can I just interject about Campo for a second?
Yeah.
To what Brooks was saying, like 2 years ago or something, he got me a bunch of Jimmy Nardellos and jalapenos from Campo Rosso, and I did a special pie for that. This was when I was still doing it out of the apartment. That was just Jimmy's and jalapenos, and then I did piped ricotta on the finish. And I remember Brooks was like, "So how'd you prepare the Jimmy's and the jalapenos?" He's like, "What'd you do to them?" I was like, "Oh, nothing. I just sliced them, because they're so fucking good."
Great when you just don't have to mess with it. Brooks, tell me, I'd like to know one dish that you feel that maybe less people know about on the menu. I know you've got your standards and your classics, but of course there's other ones, some hidden gems. What do you want to call out?
I feel that like, you know, I mean, the food at SB, like it's a pretty small menu, our pink all day menu at this point. I'm very proud of our French fries. It only took us, 10 years to finally figure out a way to do it. And now they're offered all the time. You actually get them automatically with a burger, or you can get a side. It's a tremendous amount of work. And it's a tremendous amount of stress because potatoes are just brats,
Yeah.
But I think for me, the thing that I think is really special about the new SB is our bar. It's an amazing bar to hang out at. Yeah. It's the old Odessa bar.
Which you never would have known it was there in some
Right.
ways.
Like, I have a few friends that between the two of them have claimed that they went to Odessa thousands of times, and both of them are like, I never sat at the bar.
Never.
And some people will say, oh yeah, I sat at the bar. But for the most part, people are like, yeah, I don't ever remember anyone sitting at the bar. But we basically had to rebuild it because it was kind of falling apart. But it's we made a conscious choice. And our bar manager now, GM Fozzie Butt, who's kind of like legendary East Village bar guy. If you've ever had a drink at any East Village bar in the past 25 years, there's a pretty good chance that Fozzie served you one of those drinks, And when Fozzie and I were talking before we opened, the idea was we didn't want to have any creativity in the cocktails. We just wanted to do classics, but with like deep care for fresh juices, and we even to this point, and I think it's like I'm not really a cocktail guy, but I love the cocktails at Superiority Burger. We have a Zoom-X machine, which let's say, okay, so we got the Zoom-X machine because they're totally cool looking, and we put it in back of the fountain in the hopes that we would sell tons of fresh orange juice for brunch. We drastically overestimated the amount of orange juice people want, which is 0.
And those things are a pain to clean too, right?
They're a pain to clean, but so are ice cream machines.
Yeah.
But the quality of the juice that comes out of them, it juices the citrus so delicately. So we kind of use it mainly just for the bar, for lemons and limes. And it as soon as we got that machine, which was like a few months ago, it immediately like elevated the quality of the citrus for the cocktails, and occasionally we'll have like a creative thing here and there for a special, but it's just so fun to sit at that bar. We have these amazing bartenders. Fozzie basically curated our bar with like, the best characters, like the kind of people that you want to
and
serve
they're
you
so
drinks.
Nice, kind people. To me, my experience at your bar has been kindness.
Yeah, it's
there's
fun.
a great service.
It's really fun.
These are East Village guys. They're not like fancy like suspender mustache guys. These are like East Village guys and gals. And I feel like the kindness and this hospitality has always been excellent at Superior Burger.
Yeah, it was funny. David and Anna from Elska in Chicago were in town, and they were doing a James Beard dinner, and they had come in for lunch, and I was like, "Oh, after your dinner, you should come back and hang out at the bar. It's my favorite bar to hang out at."
Yeah.
And David looks at me, he's like, "Don't get high off your own supply, bud."
Is Mark working? Mark Arbald? Does he work in shifts?
Oh yeah,
you'll see him
a couple
around.
days a week. Like if he's working, it's the best. If Patty's working, it's the best.
Yeah, Mark's.
we have all of our bartenders just fucking rule.
No, it's a great bar. It's a great reminder of that. And also, if you're waiting for a table, you can always have a drink there.
Sure, and you could eat at the bar too. I mean,
you can eat at the bar.
When you asked me where I like to hang out the most, I didn't want to say it because he's sitting right next to me, but it's like the bar at Superiority Bar.
It's a good one. And shout out putting Al's Ale on there. I like that choice.
Al was a regular at Old SB.
Yeah.
For years, and then during COVID, he started that.
It's great beer.
Making his non-alcoholic beer. So it was sort of a given that would be our non-alcoholic beer, which when we actually sell a ton of it too. So
no, it's a really nice beer and great reminder. On This Is Taste, we ask guests about their discerning taste. So to close this interview, here's a little rapid fire, fast and furious taste check. Each of you, you're taking the test. Chris, you first. We'll go each answer the question. Starting with you, Chris. The best fruit.
Pineapple.
Apricot.
Okay, what makes a good apricot? Because they're hard to find, I feel.
Oh yeah, I like them because you really almost never can you eat them raw. Like you have to develop the flavor.
Yeah.
And I like the challenge. And when they're good, they're so good. So good.
The worst vegetable.
Kale.
Yeah, please expand.
It just sucks. It's weird on my stomach. It's never like massaged correctly. It's like the mouthfeel stinks. I don't know. I just don't like it.
Yeah.
You got to try Nico's stuffed shells.
Okay, maybe I'll try.
There's probably a good kale in our city. What about you,
I was opposed too. So, yeah.
What about you, Brooks? What's your answer?
Potatoes. I fucking hate potatoes.
Was it like really?
No, I mean I love potatoes, but
you hate.
They're they're such pain in the ass.
All right, the best dessert.
I was gonna say bread, but if I had to choose, it'd be like affogato or something like that.
Oh, affogato, right? Yeah. What's your pastry ambition up at Chrissy's?
None. Maybe some semolina rolls, but yeah. I mean, I don't have any pastry. I mean, I love fancy desserts. It's one of my favorite cookbooks, but I have no sweet. I'm not a sweets guy.
No cookie? I
mean, like a salty chocolate chip cookie would be the best move.
Margin's nice. You'll make some money. All right, Brooks. What about you? Favorite dessert?
The banoffee pie at the Spotted Pig in 2006. That's my standard answer anytime anyone asks me. Like the most brilliant, perfect slice of dessert I've ever had.
You came to play. I appreciate that. Favorite city outside America to visit for food?
Mexico City. Or can I say two?
Sure can.
Athens, Greece. Like those are the two
Yeah.
places I've had the best food in my entire life.
Fuck, I've never been to Greece.
Couldn't even tell you what I ate there. These are also places that I had the privilege of going on.
Yeah.
But I never would get to travel without touring. So stopping in a city to play a show or two and then eating is like the best thing on the planet. And the two places I've loved the most are Mexico City and Athens.
Brooks, you?
Most obvious answer, Tokyo.
Yeah.
It's like, again, going back to obsession, like, it's all great.
It's all great.
Never been still.
I mean, pizza there. All right.
There's really good pizza in
That's
Tokyo.
Good pizza in Tokyo. Okay, this is a big one for each of you. I'll start with you, Chris. A restaurant you wish you could bring back from the dead.
So my answer to that is going to be strange because it's just there's two places that I just lived near for a long time that both closed around the same time. Northeast Kingdom in Bushwick, like that burger was like insane, and I miss it very much. And I think it's an artichoke pizza now, so I'm sure you know how I feel about that.
Yeah.
And then this other place called Cafe Gia that was like a couple blocks away from Northeast Kingdom. That was just like my hangover breakfast spot. Just like the best breakfast, and it was there for like 6 years and closed in 2016 or something like that.
Good memory. How about you, Brooks?
I mean, they're all so tied to specific time periods and
Sure.
stuff. But,
That's what's good about this question. Let's go back there. Let's go back in time.
Village Yokocho,
Yeah.
like, but
What year though? Because it got the food kind of. It used to be. I don't want to be.
I mean, like just everything, like the yellows in the room and the service style.
Oh man,
like, and just it was always fun, you know.
Favorite cookbook of all time?
Essentials of Classic Italian Cooking, Marcello Hazan.
Yeah.
I mean, if I'm ever cooking at home, which I don't do ever, it's just making that tomato sauce, like the butter and half an onion, whatever.
Yeah.
It's the best. And I just like, have it in the shop. I always just like to look through it. And
Oh, it's nice to have you peeking there, looking at you every day.
yeah,
That's
exactly.
nice. How about you, Brooks?
I've said this a million times. The Last Course by Claudia Fleming, like the greatest dessert cookbook of all time. And also Eat Me, the Shopson's book, just because it's the best.
Yeah, it's a wonderful book. Both of those, and Claudia's new version of The Last Dessert is available now. It's not out of print anymore, which is amazing.
Yeah. I mean, I've pretty much ripped off every single dessert in that book multiple times. Like,
do you guys have a relationship, you and Claudia?
Oh yeah, Claudia's my bud.
Yeah, that's cool. That's cool. A favorite recent cookbook discovery?
Bread and How to Eat It.
Yeah,
Rick Easton and Melissa McCart. It's just the coolest book. It's basically telling you not to make bread at home.
I know.
Why wasn't Rick here too?
I know we should have gotten Rick.
I know Rick should have been.
We do a trio one next time.
We can. You guys are always invited back. It'd be great to have the three of you on mic. And that book is amazing because how do you publish a book here at Knopf and say you shouldn't make this?
Yeah,
use
but
this.
if you have to, here's some.
It's a really, really cool book. What about you, Brooks?
One that I hadn't had, and I actually just got like a couple weeks ago because I decided I wanted to tackle the seitan recipe, is the Xi'an Famous Foods book.
Nice.
Oh yeah.
And so I've been basically trying to make their seitan like over and over again over the past couple weeks. I didn't make it yesterday, but I made it the day before, and I'm still not even close, but I'm learning.
Yeah.
And the whole method where you start with flour and water and then let the dough rest and then wash all the starch off, and then you're left with like the 100% straight gluten. Just because like every time I've had the cold skin noodles there, and the thing is that you learn in the book is the starchy water is the noodles, and the gluten is the seitan in that dish, and that's so cool.
Separation there is interesting. Last one, your favorite sandwich.
It could be like a specific sandwich from a specific
It could be
place.
a specific restaurant sandwich. It can be a general category. We will accept both answers.
A cheesesteak with Cooper Sharp long hots and onions from Angelo's in South Philly.
I got to hit that one. I don't know it.
It's his bread is so insane.
Yeah.
Like it like Brooks and I talk all the time about how like it's really nice when someone's cooking pisses you off, like
Right.
or baking in this manner.
Sure.
Like
Yeah.
his bread, I'm just like, fuck you.
Yeah.
This is too good.
It's opening on Avenue A.
Yeah, I heard he's
Oh, they have a little
open.
spot.
Him and it's called like Danny and Coops or something. But yeah, I think it's on Avenue A.
Oh, wow. Breaking news here. That's good. What about you, Brooks? Favorite sandwich?
I was never, ever, ever into tuna melts ever for any reason. was kind of like in general opposed to like tuna salad. But I was in LA over Labor Day and I had a tuna melt at Apple Pan.
Oh, wow.
And it was a fucking straight up religious experience. And I don't understand. And I think that's my favorite sandwich now. So I can't wait to go back to LA so I can go back and get one.
What's the factor? Is it the cheese choice?
I was sitting at the counter and I was watching the guys on the griddle. Like they just pulled the bread out of the bag. They toasted it. They took the ice cream scoop of tuna salad, and then there was a slice of, I believe, Tillamook cheddar, and then some butter on the griddle. And that's it. And then it came with a little pile of pickles and some canned California black olives.
Oh, shit. Nice.
And it was, like I said, it was like a religious experience.
I love that memory. Brooks and Chris, thank you so much for joining This Is Taste.
Thank you, man.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
This Is Taste is hosted by Eliza Abarbanel and me, Matt Rodbard. The show is produced by Shalia Harris and Pat Stango and edited by Clayton Gumbert. Theme music by Steve Rydell. Visit Taste online at tastecooking.com and make sure to subscribe to our newsletter for updates on all cool things that are happening.